Hey, Rockstars. Today's episode will help you become the kind of team member that every leader wants to keep forever. You're going to learn how great company culture is really built, how leaders think, and most importantly, how you can stand out in any team. Amy Somerville is a genius. She's one of the most powerful leaders I've ever met. She breaks down why curiosity beats perfection, how to communicate with confidence, and how to avoid burnout by understanding your client, their expectations, and the culture you're stepping into. So if you want to grow, lead, or make a bigger impact, this episode is your roadmap. Let's jump in. Amy Somerville, I am so excited to have you on the podcast today. Thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to be with us.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to be here. Honored. Thank you for inviting me.
We had the privilege of meeting at Brian Wright's 3-day MBA back in August, and to say that we had a connection was an understatement. I felt like I was meeting my twin sister from I just feel like we were so aligned in terms of how we viewed people and business and all of that. And man, it was such a pleasure. I can't believe I got you on the show. Why don't you introduce yourself and talk a little bit about, set the table just for a few minutes about who you are, what you're passionate about.
Okay, great. Yeah. And I will say, I completely agree. It was one of those moments of how do we not know each other? How have we lived our entire lives and not known each other, but are so connected and so, in our belief systems and our heart and our drive and our passion, the impact that we want to have. So I'm honored to be here. Amy Somerville, I am the founder and CEO of Moment of Clarity, which is a leadership and consulting company that I formed several years ago. I have been, I would say, in the personal development, human growth, human transformation side of, we'll call it an industry or passion place, most of my career. So 20 plus years. It was tied to real estate on the front end. So I was an executive at Remax World Headquarters for many, many years. I also worked with Brian Buffini and Buffini Company in the coaching and development space, again, touching entrepreneurs primarily in areas that touch real estate. And then more recently was the CEO of Success Enterprises, which is home to a 130-year-old brand that a lot of people know, Success Magazine, which also included success coaching and success events. And I've had the opportunity to serve entrepreneurs, which I would say is my passion. I'm passionate about serving people who, are looking to have a massive impact. I think my calling, my mission statement actually is to impact and improve the lives of others. And no matter what that means, right? So it could be in leadership, it could be personally, it could be with their families, it could be in just connecting great people together and seeing what people, develop together with complementary skill sets or passion points. So I guess I'm just ultimately passionate about helping people transform their lives and reach their highest potential, that help them be as successful as they choose to be.
Yeah, I love how you say that. In Rockstars, as we're talking to Amy, I want you to understand this is a real force of leadership with Amy. You've got an interesting background in that you've been an executive of very large companies. Remax was how big when you were an executive in that space?
Oh my gosh, 125,000 agents worldwide.
So I want you guys to hear that. Amy's background has been on both sides of it. She's been an entrepreneur for very massively successful companies, and then leader of companies that led in training leaders. Success being a good example in that space. We're not going to name drop, but any of the bigger names out there in terms of development that have books or major followings, she has rubbed elbows with these individuals and very humbly has been working to help support not just your clients, but your teams as well. That is something that I see you as this kind of a mix of being able to do both. Because usually a business owner focuses more internally on their teams, and then you have someone who's more out facing. You've done a lot of both of those things between your podcast and that. So, for you as a leader now, as you're looking at developing leadership, what is your vision for the future? What is it that you want to create in the world?
Oh gosh.
A nice light, softball question.
Wow. Yeah. Big time. That's like, don't mess this up. Again, I think even if it is in this space, I think I'll always be passionate about helping entrepreneurs who have a big dream, who have a big goal. I will always be passionate about helping leaders become better leaders, and actually, team members becoming great leaders within their own. I think you and I agree on the sentiment that leadership is not a title. It is a behavior, it is a practice. And so, some of that tactical, strategic, but also just, behavior and daily practice that I can spread or share or, contribute, that will always be meaningful to me. But more recently, that has expanded into, places of contribution and charitable work for communities that don't have access to, like you said, I've had the opportunity to bump elbows with the best of the best in the personal development, growth, leadership spaces. Not a lot of people get that opportunity. So how can I help those who don't have that opportunity gain some of the same tools, the same resources, and change their lives and their mindsets?
Yeah, it's this real like global focus on leadership development. And
Yes.
before we hit record, we were talking about some things that we just unfortunately won't have a lot of time for, but these international, projects that you and I are sharing in terms of wanting to make a difference in the global economy of leadership and helping rise the tide. And you mentioned developing leaders in the team. I think one of your hallmark moments, and this will be like one of the things I'd like to dig on in this episode, is culture. Culture and how you develop a team at that level. I was privileged to be with Alex Hormozy, who told me that Layla, his wife, will never get the credit that she deserves because she's not as famous, and all of her work is focused on culture and people. And having been in that space, when I talk to people who work at acquisition.com, I always say, so what do you like about it here? Everyone's answer was Layla. It was the leader that facilitated the culture. So Amy, that's you. So let's dig into culture. How do you define culture? What is that for you, and we'll get into the details around that.
So I have so many definitions of culture, and I have so many beliefs around it. I think ultimately on the front end, I will say I think it's really important that culture is not what you say it is. It's what you allow. It is something that is co-created. So, people aren't, I can't imagine saying Leela, has created a culture that everybody has to follow. It's
Right.
I buy into this culture. I feel empowered by this culture. I am weaved through the soul of this culture. And I think when the things that start to show up with culture. Actually, I remember you saying, and you and I might have different days on this quote, but culture is how your team feels when they show up on Monday morning.
Yeah.
Are they excited? Did you say Monday or Friday or Sunday night?
Well, it was Sunday night is what I
You're
said.
Sunday night on Monday
Culture
morning.
is how the employee feels about work Sunday night before, that Sunday blues.
This is how connected we are.
Oh,
So mine was always to my team. How do you feel? I want to know that you wake up in the morning, and we were 100% virtual in multiple organizations that I've led. But when you walk up to your computer and you log on to the first meeting, you're excited on Monday morning. You are amped, you're energized, you are, pumped for whatever it's going to be, not only just the connection with your team members, but the impact that you get to make and the things you get to create. If that is not what is felt, there's something going on with the culture, and you feel it. Other things that are triggers for me in culture, I know it's working. I know it's there when words go, the focus of language goes from I and me to we and ours. I've worked this hard. I put this together. How does this impact me? Those are trigger words. Like, okay, something's wrong with the culture here, right? Like, we've got to figure out and refine what this all means. We're too selfish mission over here. When the conversation starts to use language that is, we're going to knock this out of the park. Our impact is going to be immeasurable. We're going to exceed our yearly goals in the first couple of months of the year. That is that community focus, the community feel. People are proud of it. You build a culture that people have helped build, have helped sow. And that, I will say, I divine by, and actually in a process that is co-creating the mission, vision, values, beliefs, and behavioral expectations of a team or a company. That it is not something that the leader by title creates and, sends down to the team and says, just so you know, this is our culture, right? This is who we are. That doesn't work. I think culture, some people still believe that culture is a luxury or a nice to have. And I'm a strong believer that culture is your strategy. That's it. Like certainly you have your products, your services, your
tactical decisions. Yeah,
absolutely.
those things have to happen.
But a lot of that is framed after you've created and gotten clarity on your culture. If you know what your mission is and everybody's got buy-in, if you know what your vision is and everybody has buy-in and that vision is a reflection of you as a leader and them as leaders in their own areas of value and values, these are people who will be dedicated and loyal to you for the rest of time, and they will do the best work of their lives with you. So to me, it is about co-creating that culture, refining it where it needs to be refined. But it's a team deal. This is not a top down. This is what I say, do as I say kind of thing. It doesn't work out.
Yeah, there's so many things you said around that, Amy, that I want to unpack. From the very beginning, the first thing you said is culture isn't what we create as much as what we accept. Is that what you said?
Allow, either one of those words.
Allow. What can you unpack that a little bit more for me? What does that mean from what you've seen in the past?
Right. So if you have co-created a culture, people know it. They feel empowered by it, but they also know and they have intention and clarity around it. So people, once they have that buy-in, they're not willing to step out of the lines because the rest of the culture will, it's like you got a big, highlighted yellow mark on your forehead.
Right.
Have you adhered to the culture, right? So you've got clarity of culture. And when it comes to anything from, hey, team members are not necessarily getting along. There's a behavioral thing. There's you can see there's a motivational thing. It really comes down to culture. So it is, if you were to, be clear on your culture and then allow everybody, great, we put it together, we co-created, we spent the day together, maybe 2 days, we put it on a piece of paper that everybody hangs in their office, and then that's it. We never revisit it again. There's no commitment to that behaviorally, right? And then it goes from that to like, oh, well, so-and-so did say this, or there was a rude comment, or these people are bickering, or, things weren't, done in the right order or scope or what have you. We'll just let it go this time.
Right. So you're saying it's like they are letting these culture killers in because it takes work to hold that accountable.
Yeah. No, it is a constant reminder. Starting meetings with a reminder of the reciting of the mission, vision, values, beliefs, and expectations. Something as simple as this. Hey, before we kick off, I don't know about how you run your meetings, but I like to be a little bit of a mess, right? On the front end, it's hey, socially, personally, how was your weekend? How was your evening? How did things wrap up? Tell me something fun. Whatever it is, be more personal and connected to each other outside of just the work, right?
Yeah.
You spend your whole, it's something ridiculous, like, 68, 70% of your life with the people that you work with, not with your families, not with yourself, not like these are your people. So building a culture where people are excited to show up for each other. They want to share who they are personally and professionally. And then like, okay, let's move into the business of the day. Who wants to jump in and reminder of mission, vision, values, and beliefs, right? It's something that's simple. It could be even dialed down to, what those things are, but it's tied to a rally cry, right? Like something that is, could be goofy or a motto or something that you put on shirts and you're proud of just being a part of that community and that culture. And then you move into the business of the day. But it just, kind of comes back, and it just is that backboard, that I hate to say scorecard, but that backboard for every tough conversation, for every great conversation, right? Like as you're meeting with, your team members and the people that you lead, like, hey, phenomenal day today. Like not only were you such a steward of the culture, but you accomplished this, that, and whatever on top of it, like amazing. Hey, saw that you were kind of struggling in the meeting today. Like, where do we feel like there was conflict of culture there, right?
So you have that wonderful rapport with your people. It's funny because I think where a lot of business owners get messed up, I know me included, I initially erred on the side of making everyone my best friends. And I learned that was a mistake. I think when we're talking about closeness, especially as it talks about your culture that bleeds into the personal world where people have personal relationships, one distinction that I want to know your thoughts on, my experience has been that I can make work the primary priority in that connection. And it still becomes very personal because we're connected around a mission, where a vision. We want to rally and make a difference in the world around this thing called the company's purpose. And then in that space, 80%, 90% of our communication is professional, or whatever that division is for people. But for me, with most of my people, it's 80 to 90% is, but there's still that very deep, meaningful 10 to 20% of like, I know what's going on in their world. They don't necessarily see me as their life coach,
Right.
but I'm aware of things. We're supporting things. We bonus to things. We give awards. And ironically, even though that's not like a deep, it's not like the first person I would call if my mother died was someone who's on my, direct team necessarily, but they would be my second or third call. Like those relationships are still some of the most personally endearing of my life.
Right.
Despite that. So you're talking about a culture of like results. And I think what you're saying is where most people err is on the opposite side, where they're keeping it so professional that they're not allowing the magic of like the personalization come in and really transform how that feels as a company. I will tell you that the way you described your meeting rhythms, I want you to go after this. I'm going to send you our meeting of our agenda because it's so similar to what you said. It's hysterical. But like, talk about the elements of culture. What are the key components that you see in a company that help provide that balanced personal and professional culture? What are the things that you like to see or do in order to keep that growing?
Well, I think it ties very closely related to your comment that a lot of leaders have a misconception, and I was absolutely that leader for a long time. So,
Yeah.
I mean, like where we are today is a journey, right? Of a lot of mistakes and learnings along the way of like, okay, that wasn't exactly the right approach, and let's refine. And ooh, good lesson there. And many years into the leadership journey, still not perfect, but like feeling more of the sweet spot than the pain points and the learning lessons, right? So I think most leaders do feel one, if they're put in a position of leadership, or if they are working at a position of leadership, that they have to have it all right.
Yeah.
They have to have all the answers. They have to be confident. It's all business all the time. Don't show any emotion. I will tell you that was absolutely the map that was drawn for me early in my leadership career. I remember hearing right off the bat, and I had I'm going to give you this visual. Maybe this is something you've heard before. Have you ever heard that great leaders are like ducks?
I
They
haven't
look
heard that.
calm and cool and serene, floating on the top of a pond, but underneath their little
Their feet are just going crazy.
but you never know. Leaders,
Yeah.
great leaders never show they're in panic. No, leaders don't ever show that, they're pedaling faster than their little hearts can take it underneath the surface. And so in my head, in my early leadership career, that was it. I was confident. I was cool. I kept my personal and business lives completely separate. I was not vulnerable enough to say when I didn't have answers. I mean, I would make them up on the spot. Had to have all the answers. Right or wrong, I'm the leader. That's the charge through. And many, 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 too many to share, but so many examples and stories of like, wow, people don't trust perfection.
Right.
They trust authenticity. They trust a leader's willingness to be vulnerable. And it took me a really, really long time. And it's just not inherently who I am or even how I was raised. And so learning the softer side of myself, learning the softer side of allowing vulnerability to come into leadership. And I think that's where you get to see a little bit of the balance of the personal and professional. So I insert that from a leadership perspective in Storytell.
Yeah, I was going to say, how does that look? Like,
It
show
looks
so that
short.
I think the concept's very inspiring and everyone connects with that. But
Yeah.
what does that look like for Amy?
Yeah, I think for me, it's not telling, it's sharing. It's letting people experience through you so that if they feel some connection in the story, they're like, okay, cool. I get that. I see that. I've been there. I understand. I empathize with that.
Hmm.
So I think, first and foremost, storytelling is such a great way to not impose your personal beliefs, not, but say, hey, it's okay. Like,
Huh.
this is where I have messed up. Not, and when I say stories, I don't mean this is the success stories. Like, let me tell you how great I am and when I made this really great decision. It is like, that reminds me of a time.
Yeah.
You mind if I share a quick story with you, right? So get the permission, right? You're not just dumping and using it as your own personal therapy session. Like, hey, here's
Did you guys think I did the right thing? What do you think? Yeah,
right,
you're not
right,
using it for
right.
therapy.
It really is, storytell, revealing all the vulnerabilities, the failures, the lessons learned, so that people can see themselves with you, and not, okay, this is what I have to do. This is the leader's rule. It all needs to be separate. So I think you can share more about yourself, your authentic self through storytell. I think that you can share that, your imperfections through storytell. I think it allows people to see themselves in you and your stories and their scenarios, and it is a form of coaching, right? That they can take what they want and leave what they don't want. But it creates a space of relationship that is, I'm not expecting you to know all the answers. I don't know the answers, right? But it takes away the veil and the facade of do it the right way first or else. It provides that trust foundation, so that if there is something personal, like, hey, notice that in this meeting, or hey, we're missing deadlines here. Is there anything I can help you with?
Yeah.
Right?
It's
That
so
they're
powerful.
willing to say, look, I got some, maybe not even the detail. I got some personal stuff going on. This is not here.
Yeah.
I'll get this right. Okay, great. How can I help you? Get caught up, meet the deadline, exceed your goals, what have you. So it is a place of staying out of judgment and in curiosity, something that I just live by. And it took me, again, a long time to get to that place. Is it's okay. I have coaching clients that will have been annoyed by me when they like, this is what's going on with my staff, or this is what's going on with my team. And I'm like, well, I don't know this, and this is what I think is going on. I'm like, well, do you know?
Yeah.
Have you asked? And they're like, I don't want to ask them. I just want to know. I just want to, like, you gotta, ask the questions. You might be creating a narrative that doesn't exist. You may be skipping over, that somebody has something, going on personally, and you actually have a tool or resource that can help them in this time. So it is through storytell, with your willingness to be vulnerable about yourself, shedding the skin that you have to be perfect in every way and have all the answers, and even saying things like, I don't know. We're going to
Yeah.
figure it out together.
I think that's the leader component of it. Isn't the knowing of the answers, it's the confidence in the team.
Yeah.
And I think I love how you said shedding, because truly, in my experience, it was either wanting to be seen as, because I went through, like, the first lie I told myself as an entrepreneur is that I wasn't good enough. And so I covered that with a lot of, like, performance and extra hard work, with little legs running underneath the thing, calm exterior. And then later it flipped to when I knew I was enough, at least, from a value add perspective. And then I had this opposite problem of like, everyone couldn't help me because I was so good.
Right.
And it was like, no, I can't find good help. There's no good help these days. Like, ironically, the major lesson I learned was it was never about me in the first place.
Right.
But in those steps where people are shedding those exterior, problems or needs to be seen as, that's where I think you're saying authenticity comes into place and really gets right to the human element of the relationship at work, because it's still product results driven, I should say, but it's about service more than anything else, is how I'm hearing it from you.
Yeah, I again didn't start out this way, but servant leadership means something to me.
Yeah.
And that is, based in empowerment and asking the questions and arming, people with the tools and the education and the knowledge and the, whatever exterior that they may not have to accomplish what they want to accomplish. So I think it is, the job as leaders, find out, our job is to, well, I don't know. You and I have different definitions, but I like yours more. I believe our job is as leaders is to create leaders, right? Whatever that means for our people. And I know yours is defining leadership as love, which I love so much, because that ties in everything I was just saying, is that empathy and that heart and that connection is okay. As a leader. It's okay to have those things, and it's okay to care about your people. And it's actually, I think it's unbelievably important. So I think that's absolutely key is just understanding where people are coming from, what their perspective, what their goals are, and arming them with the tools to reach those goals.
So, this is so insightful as you're talking, and I do believe the same thing. Purest form of leadership, love, greatest purpose of a leader, build more leaders. As people who are listening to this are feeling inspired to do this, I am sure a percentage of our audience is feeling a little scared because I don't think, employees ever realize how often we get fired and truly like the trauma business owners go through in terms of when they hire the wrong fit and then apply these principles to it. Right. So like as a leader opens themselves up and becomes this like the servant leader and is pouring into their people, how do they distinguish and protect themselves against the individuals, those few and far between, who are truly just destructive on a lesser dramatic extent, just not aligned? How does that hurt or help those relationships? I'm kind of curious from your perspective if that approach is something that sets us up for failure, or if there's a way to help protect us, or is there a way that accelerates the understanding? Tell me what you think about that.
So I kind of fundamentally believe that you hire for heart and train for skill. And so if you are clear about your culture and you are inviting someone into that culture, as clear as you can be about the culture that they are interviewing for, is, it creates either a magnet, right? If they're drawn to that culture and they're like automatic buy-in, it's a magnet toward. If you are so specific about like, this is what the team has created, these are the behavioral expectations that have been lined out that everybody on the team is dedicated to, and they don't feel like it's a match, it will be, magnets turn the other way. It will kind of repel people naturally. So I think clarity provides a lot of the success of hiring. If there's but that happens. You hire someone who you believe is 100% connected to the culture that has been created. They fill a great skill set that's needed. They come in with all the tools and, what a great compliment to the team, and something changes. Those are conversations like, okay, right? And again, the clarity is so important because you are intentionally growing from that culture. Your job is to protect the culture that you've built. Right? It says just as much to the people who are watching someone veer off from the culture and you're not doing anything about it, as, hiring somebody and building that culture from the starting point. So it's just as, I'm like, protect your culture with everything you've got. And so, somebody could come in and it starts out great and it's not going well. And then the conversations are, hey, want to have a conversation. Things don't seem to be, you don't seem to be happy. That's not the goal here. Let's review the culture. Where are you feeling conflict with the culture, right? Or where are things not in alignment with the culture? And either you hear it in the form of, I know that this is not a fit for me, or it comes out in, well, you, well, they, well, right?
Ooh, that's a big indicator. I love that's as a side note, just to jump in. I think when it's all deflective and you and they and the generalizations, well, everyone, she always says, or that's they right. are always, it's like, oh, okay, red flag.
Like, are you sure? How do you know? I just like to ask questions. Are you sure? How do you know? Are you sure that that's how they feel? Are you sure that that's what they're doing? This is our defining culture. If there's a conflict with a human being, like, let's sit down and have you to address that. Right? Yeah. From a place of real curiosity and not judgment. But yeah, I have been schooled. I have been in that position where I thought I had hired the perfect, actually it's like a second in command, if you will, position. my contingent, well, not contingency, my succession plan, right? Like, here's
Yes.
my succession. I win the lottery and I'm out of here. This person's going to run this company or the division or what have you. And I'm going to invest a lot of time into developing them into that person. And in short order, I think, unfortunately, I think you intuitively know right away, for the most part. And when I say unfortunately, you know after you've hired them,
Right.
typically. But it's,
I sometimes, for me intuitively, and I consider myself a master recruiter. Like there's been times where beforehand, I'm like, oh, I almost worry when it's like, there's no reservation.
right.
Like for me, it's like when I've gone in the past where I'm like, they're 100% perfect, no concerns on any level whatsoever, is sometimes where that's gone sideways. Now, to your
Yes.
point, after we've hired people, then usually we get a pretty quick intuition of the fit
Very.
because we're seeing it application wise.
Right. Well, and so, I do subscribe to the, take your time in the hiring process.
Yeah.
But as soon as you recognize that there's not a fit, that there's a conflict where there's a misalignment with the culture and it's not going to progress forward, you've worked through, decent conversations and it's just going to be a miss. You owe it to them as well for them to
Yeah.
find their perfect fit where they're going to excel and grow. And so if our job as leaders is to help develop other leaders, developing other leaders also means helping them to develop in other spaces, right? That would be, best for them. So I think it's also a fire fast. But it's a fire fast with, hey, I would be remiss if I, didn't share with you, like, look, this is just a miss here, but I want the best for you, right? I wouldn't have hired you if I didn't believe that you are a great human being and have incredible talents and wonderful things to give. Let me help you find that somewhere else.
That's powerful. You talk about that was a great way of explaining what do we do when someone's not culturally a fit when we thought they were, and how do we address that? I think that was a master class on how to maintain your culture, but still be holding the values of your company as the protective thing that you're doing. You mentioned hiring for culture, training on skill.
Yep. Yep.
What are two or three key things that you do? Obviously, that could be like a series of podcasts is how you would hire on culture. But what are some of the things that you like to do or see, or how do you indicate that someone is a cultural fit during that dating period of recruiting?
I put it in the job description.
Yeah.
So first and foremost, the first thing they see is like, and these, this is, this is the mission, this is the vision, this is the expectations. Here's the values and beliefs that we adhere to, so that people on the front end, even before the very first interview, are like, huh, is this something that matches what I want? Or is this something that like, ooh, like, gosh, this, Amy lady sounds a little frou-frou to me. And I don't know if I believe in these things, or, the team is all about this, I don't know. So I think there is a filter system and also just putting it out there. Don't let it be like, and surprise, here's our culture. Hope it works out for you. Like, put it out there first. In job description, I weave it through the questions of my interview. I mean,
Okay.
you could, simply, easily, now with technology, with ChatGPT, plug in your culture, your mission, vision, values, beliefs, behavioral expectations. What are, 3 great interview questions that will help me identify if this is a great person for our culture fit? And I say that as not an HR professional who doesn't want to be sued for anything, but,
Right.
gives you an idea of the kinds of questions that might help you understand, and questions that like, you put people into, I mean, it could be situations that you've been in, right? Here's a challenge. If you were in this type of situation, what would that look like? I have a favorite interview question, which is not what you asked me, but I have a favorite.
Now that's all I want to know. That's all I want to know is this
It is
favorite.
so
I've loved it.
silly and so simple, but most people that have worked for me, even in the past, are like, yeah, I remember that question. When you're working on a project, would you rather have it delivered perfect or on time?
So what do you glean from the answer of that question?
Flexibility. And not just flexibility, but an understanding of the team goal.
Okay.
That it's not about you, right? Even if you're a specialist, right? Even if you're a specialist, it's not about your specific mission of I need to have it perfect or I need to always on time. And it's funny to throw that question out and you see, personality profiles come real clear through disc profile or whatever personality
Yeah.
profile you know well, like, oh, always on time, always on, perfect,
Yeah.
every time perfect. I prefer the answer of, well, what's the goal?
Right. More questions, because like my mind immediately went to this idea of like, okay,
How do you
so
know?
what's the end in mind, and what are the variables that aren't being mentioned? What's the project? Because
Right,
then you're getting more of some flexibility as someone who's able to also think on their feet. It kind of reminds me
right.
of that Google question
Absolutely.
where like you're 3 feet tall and you're in a blender, how do you get out? Or 3 inches tall and you're in a
Oh,
blender, how do you
that's a
get out?
good one too. Yeah.
Yeah, they're just looking to see how your brain works. But in your
Right.
case, I see where you're trying to get to see how their brain works from a teamwork perspective.
Teamwork and a willingness to be a little vulnerable, right? Don't have to have all the answers. Correct. Right? You don't have to pick one side or the other, or have the right answer or the wrong answer, or be worried that you have the wrong answer. Did I answer right? Is that what you were looking for? I mean, I guess it depends on the budget. You're right, it does. I guess it depends on the client. I guess it does.
Hmm.
I guess it depends on what the team is working on. Are we a part of, pipeline of development? Am I in the front part of the development or of the project, or the last part? Do I bring it on home? Anybody who's willing to ask the questions, get more information, and recognize that I don't want them to give me an answer right away.
Yeah. It's funny. It reminds me of a story. The CEO of acquisition.com tells this story about how he was being interviewed to be a CEO of a different large company. And the person interviewing him said, okay, I want you to get this person right now. I'm going to give you the cell phone number of this person. I want you to close right now this deal. And you're going to sell this, and this is the product you want. Like he did like a 30-second training. It was this real intense moment. He's like, but I want you to do that right now. And he said, great. Can you tell me what you say on your calls then before I start? And like, just want to learn from you. And he goes, you're hired. And he's like, what just happened? And you're the first person I interviewed that didn't just pick up the phone and start calling. And like, you ask questions, you were curious about things. So that's a beautiful question, because it's this creative way of allowing them to see how people are, because the stress in that moment isn't different than the stress of working for you and being given an assignment and that exact circumstance comes up, because then you get to see how they react under stress and how their brain works. And there's, like you said, there's no wrong answer. There's value in someone saying, gosh, do I have to choose between the two of those? Cause I'd like to do both. And what else can you tell me? Like, oh, okay, we got someone who's a thinker. That's
Well,
really
and
cool.
I got to be honest, like it's almost unfair that I'm hoping people go there young. And when I say young, early in their careers and
Yes.
in their development, because again, that was one of those lessons I had to learn over time. Actually, it was a super painful lesson. I'll
Uh,
tell you the quick story.
please.
Quick story is I was a high level executive, decided to take a course at Wharton Business School, and it was an executive development program. I think away for a couple of weeks from my family. You stay in the dorm, you go through an unbelievable coursework, but there's also half of the event where you're building in simulation a public company and you're competing with other teams for the value of the company that you ultimately launch, right? So there's the learning piece of things. There's a dynamic, you're participating in different activities to solidify the things that you've learned. And then in the afternoons, you are building a company. You're buying and selling product, right? So first couple of days, so people are very particular about who's on their team, the roles, the job descriptions, the titles. I was attending this course with people, super, super, super impressive human beings. CEOs, CFOs of large companies and banks that and there I was from a personal development and growth standpoint, for franchises. And you're like,
Yeah.
well, I don't know what that means. And how are you going to contribute? We're building a public company. Anyway, so I had massive insecurities. I was feeling very intimidated that I
Sure.
was not the smartest person in the room. And we had a activity that was a negotiation activity.
Hmm.
And in my head, I was like, I got this one. Whatever this is, I'm the winner, right? And it was a negotiation that is too long to tell you about, but the concept being everybody was told, everybody had a little piece of paper, we'll say team of five. 5 people went into a room. One person was selling eggs, rare eggs, One person was told that they, in private, that they needed to get only egg whites, one needed only yolks, one needed shell, one needed all the, right? So everybody had what they needed to go get out of this negotiation, but there were rules. You cannot say what you're going in for. There were all kinds of rules of what you couldn't say, what you couldn't share, but you had to go negotiate your little tail off and be the winner of the negotiation.
Got it.
So I walked into this negotiation, unbelievable people in my group, super respectable, crazy smart, intelligent, experienced human beings, all men.
Yes.
And I'm like, even bigger chip on my shoulder. I got this. I'm gonna
Show these guys.
Yeah, that's exactly. Watch this. And I did my best negotiating. I didn't get what I wanted, but nobody else did.
Yeah.
So we go back into the classroom, and the professor's like, okay, so in which groups did everybody get what they needed out of the negotiation? And I'm like, no way. Multiple teams. Everybody who went into the negotiation walked away with what they needed.
Oh my gosh.
And I couldn't figure out what the deal was. And it came down to, right? Not going in Billy Badass thinking you're going to run a negotiation, not going in with a selfish mission that I'm going to win this, I'm going to bully this, I'm going to have the right answers, I'm going to whatever. The teams that won were teams that went in and said, okay, here's what I don't need. Does anybody else need this? Right? So they figured out how to ask the questions and stay in curiosity to wiggle around the rules.
Right.
Everybody can be happy, Will, if you ask the questions and you stay in curiosity and you don't go in with your selfish mission and your chip on your shoulder and that kind of thing. So I had to learn that. It destroyed me. I be honest with you, I went back to my little dorm room, cried my eyes out. I'm like, I am that person. Big lesson. I am that person. I don't want to be that person. And what do I need to learn about self that is, and confidence in my, in me and my abilities to have good relationships and conversations so that everybody can be a winner.
I love that story. And I'm that person too, or at least I can be.
Yeah.
I think there's something, talk about modeling culture in that story, by the way. This wasn't the story of I walked in and I saw and I won. It was, here's a painful lesson I learned that was so humbling to me. And I think you just modeled everything that you've said up to being how to develop leadership through culture through leadership in that one story. And I respect you more because you were willing to share that element, because I relate more to that
right.
than being like, I just kind of felt the answer and I saw within me what I could do to serve. And the only way I've learned to do things productive now, honestly, has come through repetition and failure of me going, oh, I am an idiot. Why would I decide to not, I acted like an idiot in that case. Why would I do this or that? But the truth of the matter is like, I think that's how most people, like the vast majority of the people in the world would have negotiated the way that you negotiate. That's like the common thing. We realize that thing about being kind and like being in curiosity is the difference. And it's weird because there's a big perception for a lot of people that there's weakness in that. Like, I don't know if you've experienced that, but like a lot of times in my world, people have been in my world and gotten to know me, and they're just like, wow, that guy, like I've had multiple people just be like, that guy is so like emotional and this, what a waste. And some people think I'm gay. Like it's all these things. And it's like, I'm just, and by the way, that's not how I used to be. Like my initial way was the way I was raised, very masculine energy, very like to the point. And there's nothing wrong with that when that's an element of what we need to build. But there's this other thing called people. And with people, it's about love and nurture. It's about helping support and grow and authenticity and all those elements. So I really appreciate you sharing that story. I felt like I learned a lot as well about the power of how we can stay in curiosity and everyone can win.
Yeah, no, it's a tough lesson to learn. And I'm sure people are like, well, okay, so, but this interview question, if people get it wrong, you just don't hire them. No, it's just one of my interview questions that helps me tell the story about who we are as a culture.
Yeah.
Right. So and what you see is either epiphany or, well, no, that's ridiculous. Or people open up. I'm coming from a company where all that mattered was the bottom line.
Yeah.
Right. So it's on time. That's had to be the answer. Well, that's not who we are. Oh gosh, I love that. that will be a refreshing change for me, right? So it really, they're just conversation starters. I don't have any necessarily interview questions that are no's. I have silly ones like, how would you describe opening an orange? In the journalism world, right? In the world of media, the details, the smells, the extras. I get to hear a little bit about people's personalities and what they value or how they experience things. And I'm like, that's so good, right?
Yeah.
They're not yeses and nos. There's not, oh, that's, nope, you said you wanted to be a lion instead of a seal. Check, those questions.
Oh yeah, I know what question you're
Tells
talking
me
about.
more about people's personalities, their profiles, where they've been, their stories. It opens up the opportunity to share my stories.
Yeah, it's powerful. It's neat too because there are people who legitimately want the bottom line. They want to work for companies. We had an employee resign. He was a bookkeeper, of course, in that regard because his brain worked. He worked as a virtual assistant for other companies. He was seen as a cog in a wheel. In our first team meeting, we're like, "So how does it feel to be a part of the team?" And we're going to go around and say something nice about each other, and like all these things that we do in our culture. And he quit the next week, and he's like, "Hey, listen, I don't want to I don't want to offend you guys, but like, I don't know what all that stuff is. I don't want anything to do with it." So some companies can function in that way. What we're talking about are culture-led companies that honestly just like totally kill in the market. That's the byproduct of all this. So you have people who would take a bullet for each other.
Absolutely.
They build better, more sustainable, or at least more pivotable to where they can go where they need to go to thrive. And those are the cultures that this generation that's coming up, they thrive. They're desperate to look for a community where they can feel like they belong. And that has to happen in that way. So what other questions do you have? The orange question is brilliant. Do you have any other questions like that? Silly ones?
Gosh, I can't think anything off the top of my head. I sometimes it's a scenario that's just happened within the organization.
I see. Real time.
Yep. Here's a situation that just happened. Any thoughts around that? How would you have approached that? The same, different, or here's a challenge we're facing. So it could even just be real time. Actually real time, this is what's going on right now. Tell the story. And then again, are they asking more questions? Okay, well, so tell me about this. Have you ever worked with these people before? What is their expectation? I love all of that. Then it's, you're going to have some longer interviews, I'll say. But if the culture fit is there, if the personality profile need and want, again, to your point, the people who don't want to be part of something like that and are not willing to ask the questions, it will be a very uncomfortable interview and they're going to walk away just as disenchanted as you are. There's not going to be confusion where they're like, I nailed all those answers. They're going to be like, that was weird. And you're going to say that was weird. So I think those, the more conversational the interviews can be and more showing who you are and that kind of thing. I remember being in an interview and I carried this one through is and it actually applies to both of our backdrops right now.
Sure.
Tell me a story about the picture that's hanging behind me.
Oh, wow.
There's no right or wrong answer. Just tells me more about you. If I'm going to ask you that question, I probably already know I'm hiring you.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Because then I'm just like, ooh, I'd love to know more about you and how you would so tell me a story about the picture behind
You're starting to learn how that person thinks because you're already it's a probable yes.
Right.
And now you're asking something. Well, it serves two purposes. I think you learn more about that person, but then there's nothing better in life than being different when it comes to competitive advantage. So Steve Martin is the one who said that. He's like, it's better to be different than good because when you're different, you're automatically good because you stand out. So I've never heard that question before, but that person will never forget that question. If that's a real desired hire, they're not getting these kinds of off the wall questions, which culturally is part of who you guys are, and that would attract them if that's who they are too.
Well, and I do, to be fair, I also have worked in a lot of creative industries, right? So I love to hear just go wild, man. I want to hear how wild this can actually get and have fun with it. Are we people that will have fun working together every day and creating, or if it's it's trees and a path. Pretty much that's the story.
Once upon a time I was on a hike and then it was over. The end.
That's right. So I like that reminds me though well, and I might be messing up this quote a little bit, but Marcus Buckingham, and it's something I've always believed, is that people join companies or cultures and they leave managers slash leaders, right? So if you've got someone who's incredible and they decide like, hey, this isn't the place for me, there's one place you should be looking, right? You hired to the culture, their unbelievable skill set, they've built relationships, all's well, and they decide to leave. I mean, it could be growth opportunity, which again is still leaving you if you're not able to provide that for them. But I stick to that one as well, because that a lot of learning lessons in that along my journey is, the pain of losing somebody amazing.
Yeah.
And acknowledging like, okay, what can we change about this culture that will not encourage somebody of that caliber to ever leave us again? What do we need to change about, our mission? How do we need to expand the parts of our culture or the way that we do things, so we attract a higher level personality? Yeah,
I love that because, no matter what happens when someone leaves, it is always tied to the owner. Even if the person is off the wall and just, well, I hired them. Right. So, there's something, whether it's compensation, culture, appreciation, all the things I don't know about myself. I think that's the hardest thing and the best thing about owning a business is learning from those moments, for sure.
Well, and I think that's key. We were talking about, things in meetings and kickoffs. And again, it makes for longer meetings. So I have always been the person who's like, yep, our Monday morning meeting, let's block it out for 45 because I might say 30, but it's going to go 45 because, we get to talking about some other things and some squirrel moments. And I think that's the connective tissue. And that connective tissue is, what was your favorite Halloween costume?
Yeah.
What's your favorite, Christmas or Hanukkah memory? What's, your like just kind of funny, random, out of the bucket questions that, you can kind of rotate around the team who comes up with the question and who initiates that part of the meeting. So everybody, gets an opportunity to take ownership and have a little fun with things. And their answer, to this moment, I can tell you an employee who doesn't like any condiments. Like the question was, what's the favorite, condiment you put on your sandwich? She's like, I don't like condiments, not ketchup.
And it was like, what? You mean none of them?
Right? I can tell you stories about employees 20 years ago who had getting their first bike. The memory of getting their first bike and getting on their first bike. Wow. I can tell like things that connective tissue that may not tell you, like, it's not counseling. They're not telling you I'm having a really hard day right now because I had a fight with my husband. You don't need all that. You need the connective tissue. What makes you tick? What were your building blocks? What are some of your fondest memories? Why is it fond? What's your favorite, tradition for such and such? And then you can bring some of those things to the table and surprise those people in places where maybe the culture feels a little fragmented and you need to bring it back together.
That's such a powerful masterclass is the only word that comes to mind, because as you're giving those examples out, I know my audience is going, oh yeah, I do some of that. I could do more, or I don't do any of that. One of the greatest indicators of a culture for me is who is planning and showing up to the company parties. Like for me in early days, I remember going like, hey guys, we're going to take everyone out to dinner. Don't worry. It's just going to be an hour and a half and I'm going to give you prizes. And everyone's like, oh, do we have to?
Oh, no.
Versus the end of my career of that physical therapy business where someone else was planning it. And they're like, hey, we really want to do this big thing for the people. Can we get budget approval for that? And so-and-so's wanting to bring their friends. Is it okay if he brings his friends? You're like, oh my gosh, like the difference.
That's a good indicator right there. If people love their company and their team so much that they want to bring their spouse, their kids, their friends, knocked it out of the park. Well done.
Yeah. And I will say, I think everyone who's listening to your Amy is going, how do I work for Amy?
It's not working for Amy. It's working for yourself and working for a team and a culture. And then, I just get to come along and serve and be a part of it.
Did you guys hear that? Listen to that. Like, there's so many layers. We could have a whole like podcast on her answer to that comment that I made that we could dissect. But Amy, listen, it's been so great to have you on the show. We're going to do some rapid fire questions here towards
Oh,
the end.
okay.
I love these. They're super, super fun. Maybe along the lines of what you were just describing a little bit there. Maybe one of those questions is to tell me a story about the picture behind you. I'm just kidding. All right. So the first one is, what's a book recently that you've read that's blown your mind in the last year or two?
Oh my gosh. Blowing my mind. So many. I read a lot of books. Was recently in an industry where people were sending me all of their books.
That's right.
I'm like, I can't catch up. I can't read enough books. A book that I could, so the Let Them Theory, Mel Robbins, was a big one for me. And it was something that was big for my family. So I got to share that with them.
That's a big one. That's a big one. One of my key executives, I just asked for her to read it, even though I haven't, because I just felt like that was something that's useful. I've seen so many Mel Robbins videos. She's amazing.
So I just recently was driving home from the airport, and somebody driving in front of me had let them as their license plate. So I had to take a little picture and send that off.
Oh, I thought maybe it was Mel Robbins.
No, but no, she needs to have this photo. I just think like that's, the story behind or what's going on with that kind of movement is the number of people who are getting tattoos, physical tattoos that say "let them," and it's become quite the movement. So yeah, I would say "let them" had a huge impact on the personality trait of mine that is still a little bit of a control freak.
Yeah.
Still insecure. Like, did I do this the right way? Why is this happening? What's going on in this scenario? Let them, right?
Let them.
It's okay.
Yeah. All right. Here's my next question. What is a culture building? What's a good use of $100 or less that can build your culture in a company?
Oh, I love a good scavenger hunt. That's so cheesy and old school, but I love a good scavenger hunt, whether it's an online scavenger hunt or like physically, if you're all in an area, and you can do something like that. You're not all, 100% virtual. I mean, it's virtually free. And the fun that comes out of it. I mean, go to 7-Eleven and slurp down a Slurpee in, 30 seconds, and go to Target and buy a, $1.50 puzzle in the discount aisle and make a puzzle, at the table and take a picture of it. And, go ask this team the history of this story. Go ask, so simple little things, but any kind of teamwork I feel like is so fun. But I will tell you another one that I love. I used to call it Genius Hour, and Genius Hour costs depends on how many people you have on your team, but a quick ice cream run or something so that the whole team, whole company is in a physical space together. But you could also do it virtually, and maybe it's not ice cream. Just saying.
Wow.
Where you want it to be. And the question is, you just pose a company challenge that doesn't have anything to do with a specialty or a human being. How do we make our clients feel more special? What ideas do you have? 1 hour. It's rapid fire, 1 hour. It's exploring ideas. No idea is a bad idea. You get ideas from, IT about customer service. You get ideas from customer service about IT. So people get out of their defining blocks and just feel like they're contributing to the outcome.
Oh, that is such a good answer. Okay. Next question. You get in a time machine, you go 20 years in the future and you meet future Amy. What's the first thing that future Amy says to you in terms of gratitude about who you are today?
Oh gosh. I do. I visit her as much as I possibly can.
I thought you did, especially with your coaching group that you're in. Yep.
I do. I get on a spaceship and I go to the future, and I'm so grateful looking back. And the advice is take gratitude every step of the way. Probably more from the pain points than the things that seem easily good and easy to feel gratitude for. Dig for the gratitude in the toughest times, because all those are the building blocks, and you've done it the right way.
Love that answer. Okay, last question. Now it's the reverse. you're going back in time 20 years.
Yeah.
What is something about younger Amy that you appreciate today?
I feel like younger Amy was on a mission to help people and help people connect. And I appreciate now looking back that was such a driver, because here in kind of the mid area of my leadership career, I don't want to say we're like where we are in that timeline.
Let's say there's somewhere,
the more mature area of my leadership development, that has returned to be like the driver for me is just connect great people with great people, and great things happen.
Okay. Well, Amy, you've been just a treat. This has been one of my personal favorite episodes. You are a phenomenal speaker.
Because I am you. You just talk to yourself for an hour.
I like to take a lot of credit that we're similar, but I look up to you. I think there's so much that you bring to the table that's powerful, and it is your authenticity with your focus of making a difference in the world. And I'm confident as people are listening, they're going to want to get in touch with you for various purposes. What can you, is there anything you can do? Is there anything you're working on that would serve them? Anything from a book that you're writing to like where you're working, or is there just like a piece of contact that you can give them in case they need to reach out to you on something?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you check out this episode, you'll have all of my contact information from a social media perspective. Do reach out. I would like I said, I'm on a mission to just meet incredible people and connect incredible people to other incredible people and see what happens. But yeah, no, I'm kind of in a space where I'm in my connection phase. So if you think that you've got someone or something, or very, we'll say specifics like, hey, you mentioned this, I'm looking for somebody I can learn from, this, or I'm looking for this kind of a connection. I feel like that's the mission I'm on right now. So, reach out anytime. Podcasts, I'll be bringing podcasts back here in the future. So look for that.
Are you really?
Yeah, it's got it's one of my most favorite things is meeting people and just learning from their experiences. I think that's how you grow. So
I am so excited because I know a little bit behind the scenes that we can't get into here about your previous experience. And I'm so excited you're doing that. The world needs your podcast.
Oh, thanks.
Well, Amy, thank you for being on the show again. Yeah, it's been such a pleasure. And Rockstars, thank you for tuning in. I am so grateful. As always, this is Will Humphreys reminding you to live with purpose, lead with love, and never give up. Until next time.